Hi everyone. Man, after I did that first video, something's been happening with me. Mentally, my mind can't stop buzzing. I keep thinking of new ideas and things keep clicking. I did that first video on a whim. What a beautiful duck, my goodness. But I did that first video on a whim because the idea came to me and I felt like if I didn't make it then, I was never gonna be brave enough to make it and start talking about these things. So, I tweeted this out, but the idea I'm thinking about now is related to my last video where I kind of roasted Alex Maleev. That duck is so beautiful. I roasted Alex Maleev for not having any human expression or any human body language at all in his art. And I looked at a kid's book to find example of what he could do that's better. And I'm still thinking about that in different ways. I'm gonna let that duck go away so I don't show too much and dox myself. Maybe some 4chan types could still, I don't know, analyze the reflection on the water to figure out where I am. But and Shia LaBeouf me. But anyway, the new thing I'm thinking about is reading works of fiction and how that can help artists of any political persuasion improve their imagination, improve their work. So the two authors I'm thinking of are Jane Austen and Charles Dickens, and these are two names you hear next to each other over and over again. Jane Austen, Charles Dickens. They were, I don't think they were exactly contemporaries. I think there was a little separation between when they lived and wrote, but they're both English authors of the Victorian era, looking at English society and being very influential in the novel as it's understood today. Now, let me think. Let me talk about what I've read of these guys. In my first video I said I read Ivanhoe when I was 12 and it's hazy. But what I do remember is the impact Ivanhoe had on my imagination, even as plot points and characters start to run together, which is why I want to pick up some of these books and reread them again to see how my impression of them may change as an adult after being away from them from so far. So like Ivanhoe, I read a lot of Charles Dickens and a lot of Jane Austen from the time I was 13 to about the time I was 20. And then I took a break from superhero comics and novels for a while to be a good student. I think I talked about that in one of my takes that I didn't use, but it didn't end up in any video. But I really took a break from movies, video games, and entertainment for a while to try to be a good student. And the things I thought about while being a good student percolated for a long time, which is why I think I'm so on fire to make these now. Now that something's clicked and it's not like I figured it out, but the gears are starting to fall in place. Another time, Jane Austen, Charles Dickens. Why should you read Jane Austen? It's so easy to look at those books and say, good grief, you know, it's just so much proper British, wealthy aristocrats talking about polite society. What relevance does this have to me making a good superhero comic? And my argument would be that Dickens and Austen were both imaginative people, and doing a compare-contrast of how they used their imaginations and how they portrayed their characters would give you a lot of depth into what humans look like, what they do, what they act like. And it would activate your imagination, essentially. It's old-fashioned, it's reading rainbow stuff, but there is an advantage to reading books over the movie and the play versions of them, as much as I love the movie and the play adaptations of these two authors' works. So, Austen. I read Pride and Prejudice. I watched the very famous BBC miniseries that everyone loves. There's a boat. I read Sense of Sensibility and Persuasion. I didn't read Emma, and Emma's the one that got me thinking about this because Emma is so relevant to the political conversation. I watched a movie version of Emma. I'm gonna go pick up the book, but I feel like that could be a whole video about feminism and MRAs and MGTOW all by itself. But if I haven't sold you on Jane Austen yet, imagine it's like Game of Thrones, where there's this great political back and forth as everyone's vying for political power. But instead of it being for the throne of Westeros, Jane Austen is about intelligent English gentlefolk wanting to get married and have babies, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? That is the human motivation which is behind many of Jane Austen's works, is romance and finding the right guy, and society having these unwritten rules that govern behavior and govern how you're judged by your peers. And if you can get past, reading about, ballroom dances and polite dinners, if you can get past that and you can see what Jane Austen's trying to do, which is show the variety between people, how they talk, how they act. If you can activate your imagination, it's like it becomes a whole different book. And I think this is what stops a lot of people from reading in high school. The teacher says you got to read this big long book. You go to Cliff Notes to try to get the idea of it. You go to you watch the movie to try to get the idea of it, but nothing sticks. Nothing captivates your imagination. By training your imagination, these more difficult works of literature become more exciting to you the more you read them. Charles Dickens. The funny thing about Charles Dickens is he was kind of the author where I noticed, like, I was reading Charles Dickens and enjoying Charles Dickens, and my peers were not really enjoying Charles Dickens that much. I think I scared them. But then I'd go and meet English majors who were